Welcome to It's What Our Characters Would Do, the podcast where a neutral good ranger and a chaotic neutral warlock talk about RPGs, roll funny dice, and give away some sweet loot. I'm Bob World Builder.
And I'm Grace World Destroyer.
And today, we're talking about D&D Direct 2024. And we're giving away a mystery set of dice from Only Crits. But first, Grace, how are you feeling today? I ask while you're mid-stretch yawn.
Good. Last night I did a stream hosted by Dungeon Masterpiece, the Shadow Dark Weird Tales Game Jam.
Yeah.
Which earned $3,000, which means we get to name a classroom. I can't remember the name of the charity.
It's Develop Africa.
Develop Africa. So that's cool. The winner of the game jam was my personal favorite, the Diabolical Lair of Professor Memnon.
I could have sworn you said it wasn't the one that you picked.
No, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it wasn't one related to the mask you wanted to get or whatever, right?
Yes, it was.
It was. It did all connect? Okay.
Yeah, Professor Memnon wears a lion mask. And I went out to try to buy a lion mask before the stream. Couldn't find a lion mask, and I wound up with a creepy rabbit mask that everyone hates except me.
Yeah. No lion mask or even cat mask.
No, I couldn't even
Halloween.
find
That's the real crime
a decent cat mask. So rabbit mask it was.
First stream. That's pretty neat. Because we did one live stream together a while ago.
Yeah,
and it was like the one-shot stuff.
It was kind of a similar thing. Like there were images generated, and then we had to create an adventure. Off of that. So, I mean, this was a judging stream where we judged the finalists of a similar competition.
I guess, but they took time to actually write and develop these products.
They had like 3 days or something like that.
We were off the cuff writing one-shots based on images and had like maybe 10 minutes to do it or something. And I'm good. And I guess by people who are keeping up with the Shadow Dark Game Jam, you also know that, yes, we're recording this like the day after that. The day before podcast is supposed to go up. Because I guess we have been kind of doing that for a while. But today I realized why do I have so much
free time
right now? Oh my gosh, the podcast. Yeah. So here we are to talk about D&D Direct. And as I always do, I guess I'm kind of skipping over what should be our first little bit here, the quick build, where we'll roll 3d6 and summarize the topic/goal for this episode in exactly that many words.
13.
We are going to discuss D&D Direct because it's news. Perhaps it's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, word count was on point.
I mean, yeah.
But so Grace just got fresh out of watching D&D Direct. I don't think, I watched it a week ago and then just like speedily watched it 2x speed to quickly refresh my memory. But what did you think?
I wish there was more substance to it. There was a lot of like D&D, it brings us together. Imagination. It's 50 years old. Yay. Which is fine. But I didn't feel like there was much information direct to my brain and eyes.
Yeah, I feel like, because it's kind of, based on Nintendo Direct, right? Did they coin that?
I don't know if they coined it, but Nintendo Direct is just like, here are all the games that are coming out.
It's like actually announcements and a lot of information about each thing.
Yeah.
Where this was, it was 20 minutes long, and it was definitely like a good solid few minutes at the beginning of just the like, hey, like D&D, we're a family. This is your tribe was one like quote from it that I remember. And hey, I'm into all of that. Obviously, I believe all of that stuff. But it did feel weird, like, coming out of the gate with that. Like, give me the sentimental stuff once I'm really feeling it later in the video, I think.
Yeah.
And they did have some announcements, of course. So was there anything that you were particularly excited about that they announced?
The one stands out to me was the Sword Coast.
The Forgotten Realms guide.
Forgotten Realms guide. They already did Sword Coast.
Right.
But Forgotten Realms.
And, not to interrupt, but that was like a goofy thing because people were like, well, they say in the video, we've never had a guide. Well, I forget the phrase now, but basically like imply that they didn't already create this and then like on the screen have B-roll of a stack of books showing the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. But nobody used it. So for whatever reason, Sword Coast Adventures Guide was very unpopular. They're probably going to make it way cooler this time around.
Yeah, I'm excited about that because as everyone knows, I love lore.
Yep.
I would love to know more about different places in the Forgotten Realms, not just the Sword Coast. I've actually been reading the Dris Do'Urden books.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting you.
So I'd like to see a little bit more. Maybe there will be some stuff in there about like the Mithril Hall and Long Saddle and stuff like that. That would be cool to see and read about.
Yeah, hard to say because they didn't tell us a whole lot of what would be
exactly.
in it. They mentioned the things we already know.
I wonder what... So it's in 2 books. It's the DM version and then like a player version.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Probably a lot of overlap.
Why? Yeah, why 2?
To make sure that they can sell a book that GMs will buy and a book that are specifically marketed for players. That is why.
Yep. I mean, I wonder how big both of them are.
Oh, they're going to at least be like 200 pages because that's what it takes to make a book cost effective.
I also kind of liked the Dragon anthology. I'm not really that into...
We don't use the anthology
books we have. Yeah, we don't use the anthologies, but I like
the premise.
I really like Dragons and
Dungeons. Dragons and Dungeons. That should have been the first anthology they ever put out. So yeah, that's really cool. And I'm sure it'll be good, but what levels is it actually going to cover? Like, are they going to have a level 20 adventure in there? Like, that could be interesting. Not that I would actually want to run it at level 20, but I'm just saying it would be interesting, just to hear like what they're actually doing differently. Because, they really just gave like the most vague bullet points about each product announcement that they discussed.
Yeah, and then of course the starter set.
Yes.
I was about to say, but they didn't announce any actual adventures, but the starter set will be an adventure.
Yes, and that's the one that I am most excited about. It is, if you haven't heard, basically going to be a revamp of the D&D basic, so like late 1970s, Keep on the Borderlands module by Gary Gygax, and they did just point out that it's like the keep itself, the wilderness, and the caves of chaos, which is sort of like an early mega dungeon of just a ton of different rooms, tons of different like little factions in there that you can mess around with. We've never actually played this yet, but I do, several years ago bought the Goodman Games version of it, which is reprints of a couple editions of that original module with commentary from people who were working on stuff at TSR around the time, commentary from some of the 5e D&D designers about what a staple module this was, because if you had never heard of it, Keep on the Borderlands might still today be the best-selling D&D module of all time, technically, because that's the basic set that came out during Satanic Panic when D&D was selling millions of copies. If anything, it's competing with Lost Mine of Phandelver basically as the best-selling module ever. So it's really cool that they're bringing it back. And it's been republished in every edition as far as I know, except 5th so far. So it's cool that they're finally doing that. And then maybe we'll actually play it. Because I think part of what kept me from doing it is that the 5e version in the Goodman Games book is just a lot longer. And you know me, I like a nice short module. And I really love the box sets that they put out over the years. So I am pumped for that, and we'll probably make a bunch of videos about it, assuming it is actually cool. But I think it will be. I'm just excited.
Do another
series. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of imagining.
How to run series. The new monster manual. I probably wouldn't get the new DMG, but the monster manual, full of lore, full art, full of little guys. 3 of my favorite things.
She's sold.
I probably will want to get the monster manual.
Yeah.
But Yeah. Was that all the books?
Well, what did they...
Except for the D&D. Think. I feel like there was one more.
That might be it. Because that's a lot. They talk... So, DMG is coming out next. Then it's the Monster Manual, early February 2025. Then it's the Anthology Dragon book. And then I think both the Forgotten Realms books.
No, I think the Forgotten Realms books are last.
Oh.
Like late 2025, it said.
I know the starter set is fall, is what they've said. So, but that might be it then. Spring would be Monster Manual. And then like summer is that Dragon Anthology. And then fall, starter set, winter, Forgotten Realms. So that's probably everything they announced.
Yeah, that's all the books.
And, they had a lot of announcements about the Sigil, Project Sigil.
Yeah, that took up, I think, probably more time than the books.
Probably, yeah.
Which, everyone knows, like, we're not super into online play. Yeah. I'm doing it. I like my group, but online play itself
we don't use a lot of the tools and stuff either.
So, it looks really cool, but I think the most that I would ever use that for is just, like, personal reference. Like, I wouldn't want to sit with everyone on their computers playing that way, but I might make a map and then pull it up just to show this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And I like building things. Like building bases in games.
Hey, that's my job.
Yeah, Subnautica, Minecraft is okay. It's not my favorite.
Wow, one of the best selling games of all time.
And right. Not Outer Worlds. That's the bad space game. The game is good. The Switch version is terrible, which is the version that I have. No Man's Sky has a lot of base building. So building the dungeons so I can look at them would be really cool and fun, but then playing in it with people on computers would be less fun to do.
Yeah, so I think it's if you are playing remotely, then of course everybody is at their own computer. That's the thing they're staring at anyway. It totally makes sense. This would be probably the coolest visual you could have. And, I feel it's worth mentioning that there have been several other VTTs already of this design before. That's kind of like the isometric 3D stuff. Tailspire is the one that I've known of the most. Really cool that it's going to be integrated so closely with D&D Beyond, and even with the maps feature. I actually thought that was neat. Haven't used that yet, but the D&D Maps 2D thing basically does seem like Owlbear Rodeo 1.0, which I really liked when we were playing online. And the fact that you can take your 2D map from that and put it into Sigil, where then you'll have your cool custom digital minis on there. I think that's actually quite neat. I think a lot of people will use Sigil just to use the character builder and create like the full model of their character that's pretty detailed.
Yeah, I wonder how much they charge per character slot. Because it's not all going to be free.
Gosh, yeah, I really didn't even think about the monetization. But, it is what it is. I imagine you'll get like 5 free characters that you can make. Like, it's got to be free for players, first of all, right? Or they won't use it. So it's probably like player account, you get a couple freebies, and then to create more, and of course to get
cooler outfits.
These cooler outfits. Yeah, like traveler's clothes
maybe
stuff.
Maybe a set for each class.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Very basic, but
they'll probably give you some freebies of cool stuff to, hook you, I guess. But I'm sure it'll be pretty great. But I doubt you'll get a lot of free stuff. Or if you do, it's also like, well, it's all digital, so it's, I don't know, you're not really getting anything.
It's not real stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying not to be too negative about it because, again, this is stuff that I'm probably not even going to use. So it's like, it's just not for me to talk about so much. But, was there anything else?
They're doing Legos.
Oh, yeah, Legos. Legos are so expensive too these days.
That's the thing that's happening.
I'd probably still be collecting Legos to this day if they just weren't, if they didn't actually, rise with inflation. But they totally did. That's just, I can't help it. Anytime I go into like a Target or something, I like walk through the Lego aisle and then just look at the price tags like, dang it. No, it's also one of those things that maybe when we own a home one day and I have more space for stuff, then maybe. But it's cool. I'm glad they're doing stuff, doing more things like that. I like Lego, so I can't complain about D&D partnering with Lego. I think that's pretty sick.
Yeah. It's also more... said something about magic cards or
they mentioned magic.
Lair.
The reason I just
know what that
scoffed
is,
right there was because I remembered there's one clip, and I haven't heard anybody talking about this. So this is practically an exclusive only on this podcast. But there's like a 3-second bit where they say, like, you could have your character, like, because we're going to be pulling in characters and stuff from all over the place. So you could have your character like fight a robot, and they show a D&D mini in Sigil in the shadow of Optimus Prime. Of Optimus Prime. And they show like the back of his head right there.
Are they going to do a crossover with
almost definitely
whatever owns Optimus Prime?
I think Hasbro owns Transformers.
Oh.
So yeah, of course they will. Yeah, what, are they going to throw like My Little Pony in there? Like, don't they own that? I don't know what else they own.
Well, My Little Pony has its own RPG.
Its own RPG.
It actually has its own 2 RPGs.
Yeah.
Because there is the My Little Pony RPG itself, and then there's the Ogres and Oubliettes RPG, which is the RPG that the ponies in the Ponyverse play.
Oh.
So
weird.
You can play the My Little Ponies Friendship is Magic TTRPG, and in the TTRPG, your pony character is also playing Ogres and Oubliettes, where they have their own pony character.
That's a good name.
And just get real meta with it.
Yeah. But also, yeah, we're definitely thinking too deeply into that because it's just a matter of like if Hasbro can use the characters for something. It has nothing to do actually with RPGs. I don't think there's a Transformer RPG. There probably is by now. But yeah, I didn't see anybody like make any comment on that whatsoever. And it was just the goofiest thing to me that they have like Drist and freaking Optimus Prime. Like what is... I don't know. I kind of am into it because...
I think Drist would be friends with Optimus Prime.
Well, you know Drist better than me now, for sure. I know really nothing about him besides the bullet points of
Wolfgar would definitely be friends with Optimus Prime.
But yeah, there should be more frickin' robots in D&D. Why not? Just chuck them in there. We got artificers.
There's a whole...
The Pandora's box is open.
Species of robots. And then there's Modrons, which are also robots.
Yeah, there's a whole plane of robots. There's a whole plane of bots out there.
Are Transformers from...
Probably. They'll probably be inserted into the Forgotten Realms canon any day now. Yeah. I'm not somebody who cares about canon, so that wasn't like a dig. That's just a joke. Anyway, I think that's my full take on D&D Direct. So we ready to get to some audience questions and comments?
Do we have any?
Yeah, there's a handful.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that after a tiny little break. Now it's time for a random encounter, where we roll to read your stories and questions generally about this topic, and the person who wrote our favorite story or question takes home that sweet loot, a mystery set of dice from Only Crits.
2.
From Revrock. Rack? R-A-A-K? I've been running 5e for my 7-year-old twins and our family friends this summer, and I made the mistake of putting a dog in combat. It was a duel with pirates, and the ship's dog was with them. 3 of the kids had speak with animals, and the deadly fight instantly turned into... Can I pet the dog? 25 minutes of trying to befriend, adopt it, while the pirate takes swings at them. Facepalm. So quite literally, just a story with about some D&D stuff.
I mean, that's some pretty classic D&D player behavior. And then
just the fact that they were 7-year-olds has nothing to do with their reaction.
Yeah, I mean... many ages of players would have done that, but I think for 7-year-olds, it's like... they don't feel the stakes of being attacked by pirates as much. It's just like, there's dog, I want to pet it.
Yeah. What I can't get over is that 7-year-olds are playing 5th edition. Very complex.
Yeah, is it straight 5th edition or maybe it's simplified?
I wonder what that's what I'm curious about here, what the homebrew is like to make it more feasible.
I mean, I don't think the math is beyond 7-year-olds. They might just have someone telling them like what to do.
Yeah. Would they use and understand like the interactions of like their character features and stuff. I feel like it's much more just I want to pet the dog, you know, and not using the stuff on the sheet. So it's like, how 5th edition is it? Actually, and there's a reply on this. I want to see this. I've had this happen with a wolf and players who are all in their 20s. Yeah, some things you just can't control.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's going to be the same for all ages.
Let's do another one.
1.
From Eric Spence. I had an NPC in my game who was brought along on a combat. I asked a friend to play her for me so I could focus on managing the enemies. It was his first time doing D&D combat, and he really enjoyed it. Afterwards, he asked to play her permanently, and just like that, we got a new friend to play D&D with.
That's lovely.
Another nice story. I must have been really vague in the prompt for this one, because while I had always... Yeah, just to get totally sidetracked here. While I had always intended that people could just put stories or questions about anything, and I think I used to write that in, I then, for a long time, geared the prompt more toward, specifically about the topic. And we're definitely getting stories about anything in this one. Anyway, that's cool. Got a new friend to play D&D just by getting him in there with a nice little NPC cameo. Good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, NPCs are usually easier to play than actual characters because they just have a stat block.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to introduce someone to the basics without overwhelming them with tons of rules and
totally. That's kind of what I was thinking of.
Form that they have to fill out to have a character.
With the previous one here, because like, especially with kids, like I had previously run it just with the sidekicks from D&D, which are basically a stat block, and it's a lot more simple. Let's do another one.
6.
Okay, this is a really long one. From Cecil Quetzalcoatl. I forget how to pronounce that word. Okay. Rumors continue to swirl about WotC and Hasbro trying to create or investing resources into a possible AI dungeon master.
So dramatic.
There's lots of reasons they'd try this, considering there's always going to be more people who want to play D&D than are able, with difficulties of finding DMs or groups. The fact that players outnumber DMs by a large margin, and the more obvious monetary cultural incentive with D&D's popularity continuing to grow and the AI fad taking over our culture. Hasbro has talked before about how the majority of D&D players don't buy their books, since it's really only DMs that need to, and they want to try to monetize that player base more. I think this is a step in that direction. Obviously, it's not wrong to want to make money, but I don't know if AI dungeon masters are the solution. Getting to some questions now. Could an AI DM really replicate the abilities and skills of a human DM? Would people want to play with AI DMs? There's always been talk of how digital play is different from in-person play. Will this make the gap even wider between the two? 4E was criticized for being much like World of Warcraft and an MMO. So is 5e in many ways a reaction to that and a return to form? Will the new direction of D&D be more video gamey? I don't mean this as a criticism of D&D or WotC. I think most of the hate they get is unwarranted, but these rumors about AI DMs do worry me. It's almost funny in a way, since it's like returning to the old text-based computer role-playing games. But will the possible AI DMs of the future be able to run a game as intricate and fun as a human can?
Probably, eventually.
Yeah, I would think an AI can run like a way cooler game than a human in the actual future of like true general intelligence AI, where they would just know everything that, like all knowledge that's ever existed.
They would be able to keep track of stuff way better than I can.
It would be able to like fully like, you wear like some virtual reality headset and it could like build the whole entire scene like as it's being created.
It would be like way more
so
consistent.
Just full dreamscape world.
In my games, sometimes the apocalypse took place 300 years ago. Sometimes it was 400 years ago. And like...
Oh, you're saying it's remembering the details.
It's going to remember its own details a lot better than a human DM would.
I don't know when we'd actually get to that point. Definitely, like right now, ChatGPT still can't remember its own conversation with you.
Yet.
Like, it's so weird still, but yeah. And more some other questions here. So could it replicate the abilities and skills of a human DM? Definitely. I just don't know when. Would people want to play with AI DMs?
There's going to be another huge drama. It'll be the same thing as with AI art, where people will be like, well, this was trained off of real dungeon masters. And there would be a huge discourse about whether it's okay to use, and it's taking jobs away from professional dungeon masters. That's definitely gonna happen,
I guess. But it's I don't think, well, the thing is, artists have been a career for 1,000 years maybe. Professional GMs a career for 5 years maybe. So I don't think there will be much pushback at all from the 100 professional GMs that exist in the world.
Oh, I'm not saying it's going to be from the GMs. It's just going to be people who are already in that mindset from the AI art issue.
Yeah, but I think it'll blow over extremely quickly. Because I really think that the inevitability of, well, maybe I shouldn't say inevitability, because we've also been chatting recently, not on the podcast, but just about how there's a thing where now AI needs so much data to learn more that it's learning off of generated materials. So it's kind of stuck in a loop of being worse. Crappy now. So unless they figure out a better way to teach AI, it'll be hard to reach this point where it is actually that good. Regardless, would people want to play with an AI DM? Definitely, because that's what a video game is.
So I do think it's going to get even more video gamey, especially with the Project Sigil. And if they find a way to work this potential AI DM into Project Sigil, it will just be playing a video game.
Yeah. And that's fine, because I still think people will also play D&D the way it has always been played. Because it's just a different game at that point. Some people will want to do it with a human DM. Some people want to do it in person. Some people want to do hybrid. Some people do virtual, remote, whatever. It's just more options.
And I don't really know if playing with an AI DM is going to get players to buy more books. Why would it?
No, because, it depends on who creates the AI DM. Because if it's a Hasbro thing, they would find a way. Well, you probably have to subscribe to it first of all.
Well, you would have to subscribe to the AI DM, but you wouldn't necessarily have to buy more books.
No, I mean maybe to unlock material that your AI will be able to use. I could see that.
Yeah.
And and just adventures, because what is it? The CEO Chris Cox has already in some board meetings and stuff said that we have 50 years of thousands of, probably tens of thousands of modules that people have written. Think about all the content on DM's Guild that Wizards of the Coast technically owns, that they could train some kind of AI on to establish an adventure path.
This is exactly where that discourse is going to come from.
Yeah, I mean, but it's that's what they probably just should do. I don't know. It's just a logical next step for them. Again, I still don't think that AI technology in general is good enough yet that it could run a good adventure or create a good adventure, but of course, they're not just flipping a switch and suddenly everything's AI. It's, still, the game is still made by humans. So if they're just going to gradually be incorporating it, this is kind of turning into a whole other episode. Let's do another one.
4.
Okay. This one from Neb Warb. What is your best advice for trying to convert players who have only known official D&D/D&D Beyond to alternatives like some combo of Tales of the Valiant and Demiplane, etc.? What would your elevator pitch be to your players if they were not TTRPG news junkies like myself?
We just kind of go, hey, we're going to play this game now. Yeah. And our players are like, okay.
Yeah, this is the kind of, no offense to Neb Warb here, Neb and Warb. But this is the kind of question that I think is a fallacy that exists in the space, where it's how do I convince my players to play something else?
You don't have to.
If they're your friends and you say hey, I'm really excited and want to try out this other game, and they're all no, that's dumb, we're only going to play this. I don't think you should be playing with those people. Or especially with something like Tales of the Valiant that is extremely close to D&D 5e. Yeah, there's some cool differences between them, but it's so similar. And they already know how to play it, basically, if they know how to play D&D 5e. You could literally just be hey, I got this new D&D book, and it's Tales of the Valiant.
They wouldn't know.
And they don't know who published it if they're not that tuned in. I don't know. I guess it depends on what they're into. But whatever they like about D&D Beyond and / D&D, I would guess that Tales of the Valiant and Demiplane, again, as a really close example, already has those same things, or like, their own analogs of it. So just figure out what your players like the most about the D&D version and tell them like, well, hey, and you can also try this from this other version. That's what my pitch would be based on.
5.
From Kevin Broussard, have you been able to get a sense of whether people in general are planning to adopt the rules update? My group basically talked about it for a few minutes and decided if we're playing D&D, then it's with the 2014 rules, but we're really branching out. Have you seen people excited about the update, or are people not impressed? I think people are mostly very into it.
Yeah, our one player really wants to run it.
Yeah.
Also, he was like extremely excited when he was talking about weapon mastery.
Yeah. If I were to try to create a poll of like capturing tons of people's opinions on this, that poll would be online, and it would only be capturing the online opinion of my audience, which is probably very split. But I think the wider population, again, will never even understand that there's any difference at all between 2014 and 2024 D&D. Oh, here's the D&D Player's Handbook on the Target shelf. That's the D&D. That's D&D is. Yeah. So they don't. It's like, yes, I think 100% most people. That's what they know. That's all there is to it. They're going to get the D&D that they see, and that's the D&D they will see henceforth. So yes, most people will switch.
3.
Mayor Bra 16. It's so interesting how they're really pushing the Baldur's Gate 3 as a segue to their VTT. Oh yeah, okay. So here's actually maybe the most related to D&D Direct question, now called Sigil. I understand that BG3 was a huge success and is a great access point to D&D, but how long can they possibly push this narrative? There has to be some other marketing strategy than just BG3, her. I know you're a huge VTT stan, winky face, so how would you market the new 3D VTT called Sigil if you were in charge? I'm glad you asked, because I actually was just thinking while we were rewatching it, yeah, why are they having these characters from Baldur's Gate 3 and not at least also having the characters from the D&D movie?
Yeah. And why is it always Astarion and Karlach? Where's Gale?
I'm sure Gale.
Where is my sweet boy?
They probably just only developed a few.
What have they done with him?
For that. Yeah, I'm sure they'll have the whole main party in there. And I guess it's, they're focusing on Baldur's Gate 3 because they know that this VTT is an olive branch to the video game community. And that's the video games community's connection to D&D is Baldur's Gate 3. It's already, the olive branch is already halfway out there. So it's like they're just kind of growing it a little bit to try to make that metaphor work.
They're casting plant growth on that olive
on their olive branch to better reach and entangle the video game community.
But yeah, what else could they do?
They're going to do Stranger Things. They're going to do the movie. Those are the only other mainstream connections to D&D for people today. So those will be it for sure.
Yeah. So it's to try to pull in people who don't already have a connection. It's not necessarily for the community that's already playing.
Yeah.
It's for people they want to bring in.
Right. Baldur's Gate's definitely the priority. Then they'll do the movie and or Stranger Things just based on whenever season 5 comes out. Because I thought that was going to be 2025, but maybe it's going to be 2026 for season 5 Stranger Things.
Idea.
But whenever it happens, I bet they'll make an entire book with it. They'll at least do a box set. But if I assume that they will publish a whole book of Stranger Things stuff. And yes, they'll have all the characters and whatever the adventure is that you can play. All those models will be in there. I bet they'll be incorporating music and stuff by then too.
I wonder if they would do
huge.
A partnership with
My Little Pony?
No. Critical Role, or what's their publishing company again?
Darrington Press.
Darrington Press to get some Vox Machina stuff in there.
Probably. Because I don't really see I would be shocked if Darrington Press has any goals to create their own VTT. So I think it would make way more sense for them to just be like, yeah, hey, you can. I don't know. I guess it would have to be a really sick licensing deal because I think Critical Role, like their brand kind of is the characters from their campaigns.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is for the VTT, they would offer the minis of those characters.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That's a lot for them to give up to any other company.
True.
So it's like, because they already sell like, $100+ like models of these characters that you can buy, and people buy them. Would they want these digital versions to even exist? That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know enough about sales, I guess, to think of like which way they would have to draw the line on that.
Well, it's something that they wouldn't have to produce as much.
It's literally just a digital product.
There would be no cost in materials to create these things. Yeah. So they could sell billions of them.
Right.
All for just the same design cost.
And I guess I guess it would just be a matter of like, can they negotiate something where Critical Role is getting almost all of the profit from it? Because then I think there'd be no reason for them not to do it. And I think they should, is what I'm saying too. Like, they created those characters. Yeah, some digital artist is going to mock them up.
They would have to retain full rights to also use those characters in other things.
In anything else. Yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky because now those characters are in like Amazon stuff, of course. I bet it's almost like a can of worms for how they could even negotiate the licensing of these characters now that it has tied into so many other things. But that is a really good point. I think Critical Role characters would be another easy in, especially because Critical Role and Daring to Impress is already tied into D&D Beyond, and therefore to Sigil and all this stuff.
Maybe they just put some of the less beloved characters. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with the third campaign.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as popular as the first two.
No chance.
So they could just, kind of give those ones up.
Yeah, you could take our little scraps
here. People would still buy them.
Yeah. And actually, it did remind me, though. I'm glad this came up. I know we're kind of like out of this segment now. But the one other thing from D&D Direct that I was excited about was they included Free League as a new partner for Sigil. And I think, I forget where I saw this on Twitter, but somebody mentioned that it's probably the Lord of the Rings 5e game would be like tied into all that, which is pretty cool. Like, we have the actual, what I consider the actual version, the One Ring, because it was literally made whole cloth around the lore of D&D around the lore of Lord of the Rings, instead of, hey, let's take Lord of the Rings and mash it together with 5th edition, which doesn't really make sense for Lord of the Rings kind of style, frankly. But whatever, that's a genre question. Yeah, so they'll probably do Lord of the Rings too. There you go. And for sharing our favorite story / question, this episode's loot winner is Mayor Bra 16, because that really got my brain frickin' working there of what's going to happen with the next things besides Baldur's Gate 3 and what else they're going to tie into that.
They're never going to do more Baldur's Gates, so...
Yeah, they just got to cash that in while they can.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going home with a mystery set of dice from Only Crits. Woo!
Yay!
And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and... bop that like button. Please subscribe and consider supporting the station directly by joining as a YouTube channel member or as a patron. Our members and patrons get early access to every episode. Patrons get other cool rewards, including a private RSS link to listen to your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for your support, and keep building.
Stop building.